Over the years, the Georgia football program has produced a storied line of running backs with players like Herschel Walker and Garrison Hurst, Noshawn Moreno, Todd Gurley, Nick Chubb, Sonny Michel, DeAndre Swift, and the list goes on. With players like that spending their college careers playing between the hedges, Georgia is one of a select few programs that can make a legitimate argument to be RBU. But is this year's Georgia running back room prepared to live up to those lofty standards? And in this latest edition of my 2024 Georgia football depth chart preview, I will answer exactly that and a lot more as I dive deep into Georgia's running back room depth chart and outlook heading into fall camp.
We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, guys? I'm Tyler, and this is Glory UGA Plus, where I bring you a small taste of what we've got going on the Glory UGA podcast. This video is brought to you by our great friends at Alumni Hall. And guys, with fall camp now just 1 week away, I guess technically 8 days away, this channel is going to be your go-to one-stop shop for everything you need to know to get you fully up to speed with what to watch for as Georgia is set to open fall camp. We've got a daily position unit preview going for you. This is part 2 of that preview, so you don't want to miss any of it, guys. If you're a diehard Georgia fan, you're going to want to check this stuff out, so make sure to subscribe to this channel right now so you get all of this content uploaded directly to your YouTube feed. Like the videos, comment, let me know what you guys think, but definitely make sure to subscribe and check out the Glory UGA podcast, wherever you get your podcast for a lot more content just like this. But all right, so in part 1 of my position unit preview, which I did yesterday, we're doing this each day leading up to the start of fall camp, which is next Thursday, August 1st. In the first edition, we took a look at the wide receiver unit. Make sure to check that out if you missed it. But today, we're moving on from wide receivers, and we're going to set our sights on the running back room. Look at the depth chart, the outlook, the questions that this room needs to answer heading into fall camp. Now, guys, when we get into this Georgia running back room, at the top, there really is no mystery who the headliner is with this Georgia running back room in 2024. Kirby Smart went out and grabbed Trevor Etienne from the transfer portal, one of the top running backs in the portal ahead of this season, for a reason. Like, he didn't just go do that because, he's a nice back, we'll bring him in, we'll stock our running back room. No, we needed a guy like that, and Kirby went out and got one. And the former Florida Gator, guys, is 100% going to be Georgia's top running back, at the very least, to open the season. My expectation is that Trevor Etienne will be our top running back through the entirety of the 2024 season, barring suspension. That's the one caveat here, because he did have that arrest. The DUI was dropped. He got arrested with a traffic offense back during spring practice. Those charges were reduced, no DUI charge, so that's great. I think that helps his cause, but it's still kind of up in the air. Will he, won't he play against Clemson? I'm more confident than I was. Now the charges have been reduced that he will play, but that still somewhat remains to be seen. But barring suspension, he will be Georgia's top running back to open the 2024 season. And for good reason, guys. The dude was straight up awesome at Florida. He ran for nearly 1,500 yards over the course of his first 2 years at Florida, 14 touchdowns in those 2 seasons, and he shared duties. He wasn't their full-time feature back. He was sharing duties with Montrell Johnson, who came over from Louisiana with Billy Napier. And that's a big part, actually, of why Trevor Etienne transferred to Georgia. So if you're wondering, why did he leave Florida? Well, yeah, I know, as Georgia fans, Florida sucks, Georgia's great, leave Florida, come to Georgia, no brainer, right? But it's more than just that. A big part of why he transferred is he wanted to be the guy. If you can go to a team that, yes, is contending for championships in a way that Florida just isn't right now, and you have a real legit shot to be their top back, that's almost a no-brainer. And I think that's a big part of why Trevor Etienne, at least that's certainly what he said, a big part of why he transferred to Georgia. He averaged almost 6 yards a carry over his 2 years at Florida, 5.9 yards per carry. And at first glance, when you look at the guy, I think one of the first things people will say is he's kind of smaller. He's 5'9". Yeah, 5'9", that's short. But it reminds me a lot of DeAndre Swift. You remember when he played at Georgia a couple years back? DeAndre Swift was short, 5'9". But being short doesn't necessarily mean you're small. If you're 5'9", like 165, yeah, you're small. But when you're like Trevor Etienne, you're 5'9", 205, you're not a small guy. You're a short guy, but you're a pretty thick 205. And that's what you're looking at here with Trevor Etienne. And as a runner, when he's out there on the field. I think his greatest strength is his short area quickness. You get this guy in space, he's incredibly elusive, and he is a dynamic weapon in space. He also, at 5'9", runs very low to the ground, which in some ways can actually be beneficial to you as a runner. Because when you run low to the ground like that, you play with really good leverage, and that means like you think, okay, well, 5'9", he's not that powerful. Actually, with that lower leverage, he runs with more power than you would think at a guy that's that size. He also has a really, really strong contact balance, which is great, guys. It's great to be able to like run over somebody, but it's even better to be able to like run over and through somebody and still stay on your feet. So that contact balance is great. I think he has A-level top end speed, has a strong knack for finding a hole, and has the ability to get skinny through that hole. And another really big part of his game that I think will really translate well to our offense, he has the potential to be a really strong weapon out of the back from the passing game. And if you think about Carson Beck last year, who got, I think, at times too much criticism from some of the fan base for checking it down when oftentimes that was the right play. But Carson's not a guy that's going to force things. He is certainly willing to check the ball down. We saw that time and time again last year, and it played out really well for Georgia. So if now you throw a guy like Trevor Etienne, who is as dynamic as he is in space with that short area quickness, with him now as a check down option. No offense to the guys that had in the backfield last year. They played really well for us. But this is a different level guy. We're talking about quickness in space. I think that can be at another layer, another level to this Georgia offense. So yes, there's no doubt about it in my mind. I don't think there should be a doubt about it in anybody's mind that Trevor Etienne is 100% going to be Georgia's top running back this year. That's the case because A, as I just went through, he is, yes, extremely talented, but also B, because behind him, let's be real, guys, Georgia just does not really have any experience to speak of. So let's go there next. What does Georgia have behind Trevor Etienne? Well, that's where things start to get a little murkier. Ideally, we would have a fully healthy Branson Robinson to form an elite 1-2 punch at the top of Georgia's running back room. That would change the game for our running back room. A healthy Branson Robinson, I think there's a world where if Branson was fully healthy, like pre-injury Branson Robinson, I think you make a strong argument that Branson is a better running back than Trevor Etienne, like that version of Branson. In fact, I think I probably would make that argument if Branson was fully healthy, but that's the issue, guys. As we all well know, Branson Robinson is coming off a very severe patellar tendon injury that cost him all of last season. It's a tough injury to come back from, guys. Typically about a 9-month recovery. He's certainly past that 9-month mark. We heard it in early August last year, the beginning of fall camp. So he's nearing like the 12-month mark, the full year mark. So you would like to think that he will be healthy enough to be clear to go and ready for contact and get ready for this season. But we just don't know. It's an unknown now, guys. We just do not know with him. Now, we did get a positive update from Kirby Smart at SEC Media Days last week saying, Branson looked good out there. He's looking strong running. But he also said, I don't really know where he is in terms of like clearances. He's not a doctor. And so I don't know what to think about that. I guess it's better to get a positive update from Kirby when it comes to Branson's recovery than the alternative. But Kirby's also not a doctor. And we've also heard Kirby say these kind of things about injuries. Like, it's not that bad. And next thing you know, it's like the guy's out for the rest of the year. We've seen this before. So I don't want to put too much stock in that. Now, here's what I would say. Like, this is just me speculating. This is like my thoughts on probably what to expect from Branson Robinson this year. Like Kirby, not a doctor. So don't take my word as gospel truth. This is just me speculating here. I lean towards Branson being ready to play by the first game against Clemson, by week 1. Now, what does that mean, ready to play? I think he'll be cleared to play. I think medically he'll be cleared. I think he'll have gone through some contact at practice. But I also in no way expect him to be like 100% of Branson Robinson, like fully what Branson was pre-injury. I think that's far too aggressive. I just simply don't expect. I think that's too much of a reach. So I expect him to be healthy enough to play, but I also expect us to kind of work him in slowly. He's got to gain confidence in the knee and get back out there, guys. That's going to take some time. So I don't know if we will ever get the Branson of old this year. Let's go back to Nick Chubb. I know they're different injuries, but you go back to Nick Chubb, obviously suffered that just horrific injury in, October against Tennessee. So I think October in 2015. Comes back miraculously. He's ready to play at the start of 2016. You're like, I never saw that coming. Some way, somehow, Nick Chubb is a bionic man. He made it happen, right? But even though he was back playing, we also know Nick Chubb in 2016 was great, but it wasn't the same Nick Chubb that we saw before and after the injury. It took a full extra year for him to get back to 2017 Nick Chubb to get back to what he was pre-injury, right? So I think Branson, again, different injury, so you don't really know. It's an unknown here, but I think that's reasonable to expect. Like Branson could get back this year and play, but he won't be the same guy he was quite yet before the injury. But given another year or so, yeah, he'll be that guy. That's probably where I'm leaning right now with Branson Robinson. I think by midseason, he'll be ready to be a strong contributor for us. Maybe not the top guy, maybe not as good as he would have been before the injury, but a strong contributor for this Georgia offense. But with those unknowns around Branson Robinson, it's the other Robinson in the backfield that projects to be the Robin to Trevor Etienne's Batman coming into the season. And that, of course, is Roger Robinson, a rising sophomore. Got his feet wet last year, played some for Georgia. Big dude, very different type running back than what we have with Trevor Etienne. So a nice compliment to Trevor Etienne. 6'2", 240, had 24 carries last year for just under 200 yards, 196 yards total. And it was an up and down first year. I mean, as you expected with the true freshman who was just really pressed into duty early last year because we had so many injuries in our running back room, he wasn't ready early. I mean, he's a big guy. When you look at Roger Robinson, and you see obviously a huge dude, 6'2", 240, a big back. And what do you expect big backs to do? You expect them to run big, right? You expect them to run with power. But Roger Robinson wasn't really doing that. He wasn't running big early last year. He was going down really at first contact. And I'm like, what is it? Like, you're a big back. You're not an explosive back. If you're a big back and you're going down at first contact, like, what are you bringing to this team? Not much. So I had some issues with that. However, he suffered the high ankle sprain, same injury that Brock suffered. Week 3 against South Carolina, didn't come back until late in the year. I don't think he got another carry. I want to say the Ole Miss game in November. But when he got back, he looked different, man. Didn't get as many carries, was getting garbage time reps, but the body looked different. He slimmed up some. Still a big guy, but it kind of moved the weight around and just rearranged his body and just got in better shape, slimmed up some, looked more explosive, and he had a couple of big runs against Ole Miss, and then we saw him again against Florida State. We saw everyone against Florida State when we emptied the bench, but you see him again against Florida State in the Orange Bowl, and the dude was looking big and running big, which I need to see from him. He was running big, running with power, running through guys, great contact balance, and then at times running away from people as well. So that was what I needed to see from Roger Robinson. That was very, very encouraging. And from all accounts, he had an extremely strong spring practice, looked really good at G-Day. Again, body looks good, explosive, powerful, all those things. We all love C.J. Allen. There was one play, I think it was in the first quarter of G-Day, where he just trucked C.J. Allen, who's going to be maybe an All-American type guy potentially. He just trucked him in the hole. So I'm very excited about Roger Robinson. And entering the season, if I was a betting man, I would go all in on saying that Roger Robinson will be the clear number 2 option behind Trevor Etienne entering this season. So that could change. That could change later in the year as Branson hopefully gets healthier and healthier. Again, major unknown there. But I'm just where I am right now with Branson Robinson is I'm just not going to count on it, right? Like my mentality is kind of how I operate with Georgia football. I expect the worst and hope for the best. It's just better for my sanity, helps keep me sane during the season. And that's kind of what I'm doing here with Branson. I'm expecting the worst. It's just not going to be a factor this year, but I'm still kind of hoping that maybe possibly he can give us something. So it's just an unknown. We don't really know. So I'm putting more of my stock on Roger Robinson being that top backup option to Trevor Etienne. Again, Rod's a really nice compliment to Etienne. With the size differential there, you're going like 5'9", 205. Etienne, 6', 240. Roger Robinson, different kind of guys, can do different things in our offense. And again, there's a world. We'll see what happens with Trevor Etienne and the potential suspension week 1 against Clemson. There is the possibility that Roger Robinson maybe possibly could be our number 1 back against Clemson week 1 in a very, very important game to open this season. So I'm excited to see what Rod can do for us this year. Now, after that, it gets even murkier. So we have Cash Jones and 3 freshmen. That's who we have after our top 2 options. I think the top 2 options, Etienne and Roger Robinson, that's a good solid 1-2 punch. After that, big questions, right? Because we just don't know. We just really haven't seen that much of these guys. We have seen some of Cash Jones. He got some run last year. And look, Cash is a solid back. I'm not here to rip Cash Jones. Cash is a good, solid back for us. Did some good things in our offense last year. Had 22 carries for 161 yards on the year. Ran for and caught a touchdown. Really nice touchdown catch early in the year. But As we got into the meat of our schedule and we got healthier in our running back room, the dude had 7 carries total over our last 7 games. 5 of those came against Florida State in the Orange Bowl, where we just completely emptied the bench. Everyone played in that game. So outside of that, I guess you would say up to the Orange Bowl, he had 2 carries in our last six games of the year, up into the bowl game. So Cash is a solid, serviceable option. All right, we've seen him do some nice things in the Georgia offense, but I also don't think Georgia wants to be in a position where Cash Jones has to be one of our top backs. I don't think that's what's probably best for Georgia if we're in a situation like we were last year, early in the year, where we just are decimated by injury at that position to the point you're having to take a wide receiver, Dylan Bell, and throw him in the backfield. Then okay, yeah, maybe you throw Cash Jones back out there a little bit. But outside of that, if we have other options, I think we want to explore what those other options can give us. And here's where I'm going to come to the sleeper of this running back group. So we have Cash Jones and we have 3 freshmen behind our top 2 options. Of those 3 freshmen, the guy that I am most excited about, that I think has the best chance to help us this year, is Nate Frazier from Mater Dei in California. Very famous school out there. Produces a lot of high-profile college football players, NFL players. And he is a guy that I think is the total package at running back. He's a former top 50 recruit. He was the number 2 running back in the country in this top-ranked 2024 recruiting class for the Georgia Bulldogs. And he's a guy that's 5'10", 210, good, solid size. But again, total package as a running back. When you watch this guy on tape, you see everything you need to see. You see explosiveness, which is, I think, his number 1 quality, is insane acceleration. He runs like his hair is on fire. He has great power. Put his shoulder down, run through you. Great contact balance, great vision, has the ability to catch the ball in the backfield, dynamic, elusive in space. A lot of the same qualities that Trevor Etienne has, actually, with just a slightly larger frame. So he's an awesome back. I mean, there's a reason why he was the number 2 running back in the country in this 2024 class. And there's a possibility where he can end up being the best running back in this 2024 class when it's all said and done. However, I do have some concerns. My biggest concern being the fact that he is a summer enrollee. He was not an early enrollee that was here for spring practice. He missed all of those potential reps, those 15 practices, is not ahead of the game as he would have been if he would have come for in the spring as an early enrollee. So he's playing catch up there. That doesn't mean he can't catch up. It just puts him in a tougher spot. Learn the playbook as a running back. There's not as much that goes into it at the running back position as there are in a lot of other positions on the team. There's not as many nuances to it, but you still have to learn the playbook. And probably most importantly would be his pass protection. Most guys that play running back out of high school, pass protection is an afterthought for them. They're the best athlete on the field. You turn around, you hand the ball, and they just go to work, right? They don't worry about pass pro. Like, that's not something that they worry about. But the college level, if you can't protect the quarterback, you are not playing the running back position for Georgia. That's been very clear over Kirby Smart's entire tenure. You've got to be able to pick up the blitz. And honestly, that's one of the concerns of Trevor Etienne. If you go back and watch him at Florida, let's be real, if you want to critique him, Trevor Etienne had some major issues with pass protection at Florida. Now, hopefully coming over to Georgia, coming in his 3rd year as a college player, he will improve on that, and we will demand more from him if he's going to be our feature back. But that is a concern for Trevor Etienne, and it's a concern for me with any fresh running back, and so it certainly has to be a concern there with Nate Frazier. But as a pure runner of the football, Nate Frazier might actually be the best pure runner on the team. The guy is a dynamic running back. So I think he has a real chance to help us out this year. A lot of that, I think, does depend on Branson Robinson's health. Is Branson ready to actually get some real carries? If that's the case, then you got a top 3 there with Etienne, Branson Robinson, and Roger Robinson. But if Branson's not full go early in the year, and it's the SEC guys, I mean, these running backs, we've seen them. They take a beating, right? It's a contact sport. There's a really good chance we're going to have a 3rd back. And if Branson Robinson's not ready to do that, especially early in the year, my bet would be Nate Frazier would be that guy because he's just such a dynamic runner. I like the other 2 guys in the freshman class as well. Chauncey Bowens he was a guy that actually was here as an early enrollee. So he is kind of ahead of the game in terms of like learning what to do in our offense, pass pro, all that kind of stuff. He does have that edge, and I think he's a strong runner. He's a bigger back. I just don't know if he's as dynamic as Nate Frazier. I just think Nate Frazier is a better pure runner. And then Chauncey Bowens is a good player. 4-star guy, not trying to say he's not. He's a really good player. I just personally like Nate Frazier more coming out of high school. Got to play catch up, but we'll see there. And the other guy would be Dwight Phillips Jr., who's a really interesting prospect. 5'11", 170. All right. So that's not typically the kind of guy you want to line up in the backfield and have him go run, counter or power off tackle. He might get ripped in half, but what he brings to the table is electric speed, guys. 10 to 400 meter in high school, a laser timed 4.28 40-yard dash. That's just something you can't teach, right? We talked about with Arian Smith with the receivers. Same thing is true with Dwight Phillips Jr. So I don't think he's going to be a guy that's getting regular carries in our backfield, but I also wouldn't be surprised with that type of speed, that game-changing type speed. I would not be surprised if we find a way to get him involved in the offense in some way, shape, or form with some sort of package of plays to where he might actually help us win a game here or there. So we'll see there. I don't expect too much from him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some spot plays here and there. So that's how this Georgia running back room sets up coming into the 2024 season. Now, don't get me wrong. This is a strong running back room. Let me say that. This is a good running back room. However, at the same time, if I was ranking all the position units on the Georgia team, which I did on the Glory UGA podcast a couple weeks ago, so make sure you go check that out wherever you get your podcast. When I did that ranking, I went into it not expecting to have the Georgia running back room dead last, but that's exactly where they ended up. And it's kind of surreal for me to say that. When you think about Georgia football, I read you out the line of guys in the history of this program. Guys like Herschel Walker and Nick Chubb and Garrison Hurst, Todd Gurley, all these elite backs. Some of the best running backs in college football history. Herschel Walker, probably the best player in college football history. It's surreal to say, well, yeah, Georgia running back room is the worst on the team. Like, what? It just doesn't seem to check out. So before you freak out, and some of you might already be freaking out with me saying that, just hear me out here. Let me explain. When I say the Georgia running back room is the worst unit on the team, we have to understand it's all relative, man. It's all relative to this insanely elite roster that Kirby Smart has built. And look, 90+% of the college football programs out there around the country would kill to have Georgia's running back room. But if you're looking at our roster, Georgia's roster ahead of this season, let me just ask you, let me put it to you. What position unit are you putting the running backs ahead of? Quarterback? Not me. Not with a potential number 1 overall draft pick in Carson Beck. I'm not doing that. Offensive line? No. Receiver? No. Cornerback? No. Not with the talent there. Inside linebacker? Not a chance. Defensive line? It's not as strong as it once was, but I still think we have some really strong players, especially if you throw Mykel Williams in. Maybe you can make an argument for jack linebacker if you're not including Mykel Williams as a jack. If you want to throw him in as the 5-tech defensive end, maybe you can make an argument there, but that's about it. I just don't know what other position you put the running back room right now ahead of. I don't know which position that would be. So again, I'm not sitting here telling you that you should freak out. I'm not telling you that this Georgia running back room is going to be some major concern that's going to keep Georgia from winning a national championship. I don't think that's the case whatsoever. I just happen to think if you're ranking Georgia's position units, I just think the running back room is probably the weakest overall unit on the team. And that comes with the uncertainty around Branson Robinson, certainly, and just the lack of experience behind Trevor Etienne. Because again, like outside Trevor Etienne, if we take out Branson Robinson with the unknown factors surrounding him, outside of Trevor Etienne, the most experienced player that we have at the running back position is Cash Jones. I mean, Roger Robinson had, 24 carries last year? Cash Jones had about 25. I mean, that's what I'm talking about, guys. So that's why I say there's some unknowns there. And if Branson does end up being ahead of schedule and just far out, he exceeds our expectations for him coming into this season, well, then all bets are off. And it probably won't be the worst unit on the team. But without knowing what we're going to get from Branson and then all the inexperience behind Trevor Etienne, I think it's fair to say this Georgia running back room coming into the year is probably the weakest unit on the team. But again, it's all relative. I still really like this room. Now, the biggest question for this unit, as I've been talking about really the entire episode, it's clear, guys. It has to be the health of Branson Robinson. What are we going to get? I can't sit here and tell you. I wish I could, man. I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful that we can get, I don't know, like 90+% of Branson Robinson this year. If we get that, I mean, that's going to be a very strong running back room. I think it would move up the rankings of Georgia's position units. And like if some way, somehow we do get pre-injury Branson Robinson and like he doesn't skip a beat, like if he's the same guy we saw pre-injury back in 2022, like in that national championship game, Well, I mean, yeah, if we get the best version of Branson Robinson, all bets are off. Like, watch out. This Georgia running back group might be one of the best in the country if we get that guy. Because let's not forget, Branson Robinson coming into last year was in line to be Georgia's featured back. And we had some good backs last year, guys. Like Kendall Milton had a good year for us when he was healthy. Dejan Edwards, same thing. Good, strong backs, but Branson's different, man. If Branson's fully healthy, he was going to be the top back. He had a great spring camp, got hurt his toe late in spring camp, and had to recover from that in the offseason, came back, was ready for fall camp, and then suffers the very unfortunate patellar tendon injury, and he missed all of last year. But Branson, when he's healthy, he's that guy. So that's the question. How close to being that guy, the pre-injury Branson, is Branson Robinson going to be? And that's really the question heading into fall camp. But there you go, guys. That is the running back depth chart and outlook heading into the 2024 season. Again, if you missed the first edition of this series, go back and check it out when I broke down the wide receiver room. We'll keep doing one of these every day over the next 7 days, the next week leading up to the start of fall camp, which is next Thursday, August 1st. So don't miss it, guys. Again, make sure to subscribe to this channel right now so you don't miss any of that content. Like the videos, comment. Let me know what you guys think. I certainly appreciate that. But thank you for being here, guys. Thank you for watching. I'm Tyler, and as always, go Dogs!
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26-21. Dogs on top.